Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never imagined a question could hit me harder than a punch to the gut. Yet here I was, standing in my own living room, feeling like I had just walked into someone else's life. My name is Ethan, I'm 38, and I've been married to Rebecca for 12 years. We met in college. She was the vibrant, witty girl who could light up any room, and I was the steady, dependable guy who made plans, paid bills, and kept promises. We fit, at least that's what I thought. For years, our life was the picture of normalcy. Quiet dinners, weekend trips, early morning coffee rituals, and the occasional spontaneous movie night. We laughed, we fought, we made up, and we built a life that, from the outside, looked perfect. But lately, the air in our house had started to change. I felt it first as a distance, a quiet that stretched too long, a glance that lingered but not for me, laughter that seemed hollow. I tried to ignore it, rationalize it, tell myself it was just stress, work, or the weight of raising Liam, our 6-year-old. But denial is a fragile shield. The signs were impossible to miss. She spent more evenings texting, scrolling, leaving me with small, clipped answers that barely resembled the warmth I once knew. I felt like a stranger living under my own roof. That afternoon, I decided I needed clarity. I couldn't sleep with the questions buzzing like hornets in my head. I asked myself, do I confront this now, or do I wait for the inevitable collapse? I chose confrontation. Rebecca was sitting on the couch, sun slipping through the blinds and casting long shadows across her face. She looked tired but calm, the kind of calm that didn't invite conversation, the kind that signals avoidance. I took a deep breath and sat beside her, my heart thundering in my chest. Rebecca, I began, my voice steady but tight. Do you love him? Her hands froze mid-scroll. She blinked at me as if I'd just asked a question from a language she didn't understand. I tried to read her expression, hoping for denial, fear, anything. But there was just this blank pause, the kind that makes time stretch and sound amplify in a hollow room. She finally said, "Who?" I felt a cold stab in my chest. My hands clenched at my sides. "Patrick," I said, letting the name hang in the air like smoke. And then it happened. She froze completely, her phone slipping from her fingers, eyes widening, and lips parting slightly. It was the kind of silence that screams everything without saying a word. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't yell. I simply waited, my body rigid with anticipation and fear. I wanted an explanation, but I also dreaded the answer. Deep down, I think I already knew. She didn't respond immediately. She didn't look away. Her gaze stayed fixed on mine, and in those long seconds, I saw a part of her I had never wanted to see. Not anger, not regret. Just a strange, cold calm, like a line had been drawn between us, a line I had failed to notice until now. "Ethan," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible. I shook my head slowly. "No, don't. I needed the truth, not excuses. Just tell me, do you love him?" She sighed, and I could feel the weight of her hesitation. Her eyes flicked toward the window, then back to me. I don't know," she admitted, almost inaudibly, and that was worse than any lie. Not a denial, not a confrontation, not a fight, just uncertainty, and it hit like ice down my spine. We sat in that silence for what felt like hours. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of Liam playing in his room. My mind raced through memories, trying to reconcile the woman I married with the woman sitting beside me now. I remembered our first date, her laughter echoing in the campus courtyard, the way she held my hand during walks, the nights we stayed up talking until dawn. Was it all gone? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but a strange clarity began to settle over me. This wasn't about control or anger, it was about truth. And truth, no matter how painful, demands acknowledgement. Finally, she whispered, "Patrick, I never meant for it to happen, Ethan. I didn't plan this, I swear. But it's there." Her words were both confession and dagger. I felt the world tilt under me, my chest tightening as if someone had taken a fistful of my ribs. Every memory, every promise, every shared moment now seemed fragile, teetering on the edge of some invisible cliff. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. I had a choice: scream, beg, fight, or step back and assess. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a strange kind of control. Not the control to force love, not the control to manipulate feelings, but the control to decide how I would react, how I would protect myself, and how I would survive this. I opened my eyes, looking at her for what might be the last time in the way I used to. "Rebecca," I said, voice low but firm, "thank you for your honesty. I need some time to think. Alone." She nodded silently, guilt and resignation flashing across her features. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hatred. It was the quiet acknowledgement of a fracture that couldn't be easily mended. I stood, feeling the weight of 12 years press against my shoulders. 12 years of love, laughter, heartbreak, and loyalty. And for the first time, I realized that love isn't always enough. Sometimes, the people we cherish the most can drift into someone else's world, leaving us standing in a space that suddenly feels alien. I walked toward my bedroom, every step deliberate, every breath measured. My mind replayed the question, the freeze, the confession, the cold calm. And I knew something had shifted, not just between us, but within me. Something had broken, and yet, something had awakened. Because love, even when it falters, teaches you clarity. And clarity, as harsh as it feels, is the only thing that keeps you from losing yourself entirely. I didn't know how long I sat there on the edge of the bed after leaving the living room, staring at the floor as if it held answers. My mind was a storm of memories, suspicions, and the sharp sting of betrayal. Patrick. Just saying the name aloud had made the air feel heavier, the house feel smaller, as if it were closing in on me. I decided I needed space, physical space, mental space. I packed a small bag, not in a rush, but deliberately, each item a reminder that I wasn't running. I was reclaiming a part of myself. Jeans, a shirt, toiletries, my laptop. Nothing extravagant, nothing sentimental. Just me, alone, in control of what was mine. I drove to Jake's house, my oldest friend since college. We hadn't seen each other in months, caught up in the whirlwind of work, family, and life. But I knew Jake would understand without me needing to say too much. He met me at the door, eyebrows raised, the instant recognition of pain in my eyes enough to cut through any small talk. "Ethan, what happened?" he asked gently. I sighed, the weight of confession and disbelief pressing down on me. She loves someone else, Jake. Patrick. My voice broke slightly, but I didn't shy away. I asked her. She froze. She admitted it. Jake didn't react with outrage or sympathy. He just nodded, as though understanding that some wounds need quiet, not noise. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not really. I just needed to leave, you know? I needed to feel like I can breathe in my own life again." We went inside, grabbed a beer, and sat in silence for a while, letting the world exist without our interference. Eventually, I started talking, not about her, not about Patrick, but about me. My frustrations, my regrets, the things I should have said and done, and the things I could have overlooked. Talking aloud made them less like knives in my chest and more like puzzle pieces I could start rearranging. That night, I slept on Jake's couch, but sleep didn't come easily. My mind replayed moments from our marriage, looking for clues, for the first signs of the drift. I remembered subtle gestures, her phone buzzing a little too often, her laughter at my jokes fading, the way she seemed distracted when we shared meals. Each memory stung, but also clarified a truth I had avoided. The love I once knew was gone, replaced by something I couldn't compete with. The next day, I returned home, not to confront, not to plead, but to reclaim my environment, my peace of mind. I spent hours just walking through the rooms, touching objects, remembering what had been mine, what had belonged to us, and what now belonged to neither. It was a strange ritual, almost meditative, almost painful. I started to plan for the future. Conversations with lawyers, considerations for custody of Liam, adjustments to finances. But more importantly, I started to plan for myself, for my dignity, for my emotional survival. Patrick was not my enemy. My enemy, if there was one, was denial, was passivity, was staying in a relationship that had quietly turned into a hollow shell. Rebecca noticed the shift. The next time we spoke, it wasn't in the heated, accusatory tones I had feared. She approached with a tentative calm, but I met her with the same quiet determination I had discovered in myself. "Ethan," she started, her voice soft, almost trembling. I didn't mean to hurt you." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel anger, not truly. I felt clarity. "I know," I said simply, "but the truth is here now, and I have to move forward with it." It wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no doors slamming, no rain-soaked realizations. Just the quiet acknowledgement that some love stories end not with fireworks, but with understanding, with acceptance, and with the bravery to protect yourself. Weeks passed. We navigated the logistics of separation with civility, something I hadn't expected. It was still painful. Every shared memory, every empty chair at the dinner table, but it was manageable. I leaned on friends, immersed myself in work, and allowed myself to grieve not just the loss of Rebecca's love, but the loss of the version of myself that had clung to hope that shouldn't have existed. And slowly, imperceptibly, life began to feel lighter. I laughed again at small things. I stayed up late talking with Jake about absurd, trivial topics. I found solace in my own company and strength I hadn't realized was there. One evening, I sat on the porch, Liam playing in the yard, the sun dipping low on the horizon. Rebecca had come and gone earlier, visiting Liam briefly, exchanging polite words. And as I watched my son run and laugh, I realized something profound. Life doesn't end because love changes. Life continues, and in that continuation, there's room for clarity, for growth, for self-respect, and eventually, for new beginnings. I thought about Patrick, and there was no anger, no desire for revenge. There was only understanding. Love is a choice, and sometimes people make different choices. And that's okay, because the moment I truly understood that, I stopped looking back. I stopped measuring my worth by someone else's affection. I started measuring it by my own strength, my own courage, and my own capacity to stand tall, even when the ground beneath me felt shaky. Rebecca's love had shifted, but my life hadn't ended. It had only transformed, and in that transformation, I discovered something more valuable than any comfort, any security, any familiarity. I discovered myself, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace.